All right, guys, here we go again. We're going to be talking more specifically on car loans this lesson. So hopefully you've watched the amortization loan video because car loans are one of those amortized loans. And if you ever end up getting a car loan, it's very important that you understand how it's working because, in my opinion, car salesmen can be fairly greasy in how they offer the loan in order to get the most interest on their part. So first off, when we're talking about car loans, this is when you are buying a new car. You can't pay it off in full, so you maybe finance it. That could be getting a loan through the car, dealership itself. Now, let's just be clear. It is always best to be able to make a purchase in full so that you don't offer and require a loan. So this would be, I would recommend that you first start looking at used cars and try and find a car that you can afford to just pay outright. All right, so I have never had a new car in my life. I've always bought used, and it's worked out fairly well for me. The important thing to realize with cars is that they lose value. So they depreciate, which means you're not going to get all the money back out of it that you put into it. So homes, on the other side, they tend to appreciate in value, not always, but they're viewed a bit more of a kind of asset and a bit more of an investment. Cars are not an investment, all right? You might get some money back when you go to sell it, but they lose their value very quickly, all right? So my advice, first off, is to always look at something used, but be careful that you could end up getting a bit of a debt of a car in that way. So do your research, but let's say, okay, you're buying a new car, cars are your thing, you like it. Let's make sure you're being smart about how you purchase that loan. All right. Oh, I want this switch on me. Here we go. Okay, so if you are getting a new car and you need a loan, it's going to be amortized. This means it's going to have set payments month after month. It's really important that you understand the terms of that loan so that you know what that car is going to cost you in the long run. All right, it's very common for people that are lending out loans to not really want to tell you the amount of interest it's going to accumulate over time. They're going to simply try and sell you on the lowest payment possible to make it seem like you can afford it. So oftentimes car loans or car dealerships will try and sell you on really high terms and maybe even bi-monthly payments so that you have a lower monthly payment and it looks more appealing. But that accrues more interest. Okay, so when you are using credit to buy a vehicle, they might offer an auto financing plan. All right, so this is typically through the dealership. You're really going to have to consider how much money you need to borrow. The less, the better. The interest rate, and interest rates tend to be tied to your credit score. So the better credit score you have, the lower the interest rate they might offer you. That interest rate might also be tied to the term. So sometimes the longer loan term they offer, it could be a higher interest rate. So that brings me to loan term. That's how long it's going to take you to pay it off and how often you're going to make payments. So you really need to make sure that that monthly payment is affordable, but that you're not paying too much interest. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at an example here. First off, it's important that you know what a new car is worth. All right. So it's not really uncommon for new cars to be between $20,000 and $30,000. So let's say Jerome wants to buy a new car at $28,000 before tax. Okay, very important that you can consider tax because they're going to advertise a price before tax. And obviously, a small percentage of a very large number adds up. If you got a loan plan for 4 years through the dealership, this is what it would look like. Okay, so they advertised a purchase price of $28,000. However, with tax, the total price is going to be $30,000, $990, almost $31,000. So very important that you're considering tax on big items like cars and new homes. Cars and homes typically require a down payment. The larger the down payment that you can afford, the better. All right, so this down payment of $2,500 is going to be subtracted from the loan amount. Okay, that's your money that you're putting directly towards the purchase price that you don't have to borrow. So that leaves the amount that he's financing, $28,490. Now, there's a 3% interest rate at a 48-month repayment plan. That's his term, 4 years. All right, the monthly payment's going to be $630. That's a lot of money. So again, it's very important that you take into account that car payments are a luxury. So if you can't afford that, try and not put yourself in this situation. And the total payments is $30,269. All right, so compare that to the amount he financed. That means the interest that he paid is almost $2,000, $1,779. It's also important to consider that he already put a down payment up front. So this car on this plan is actually going to cost Jerome $32,769. So that includes the purchase price, the tax, the down payment, and the interest. So, I'm going to show you kind of different ways that maybe he could have lowered that interest rate. Okay, first let's look at how term affects your payment. So what we have here is the payments by term loan. So the blue is a 36-month payment, green is 48, red is 60, and purple is 72. So how does the term length affect the payment? Okay, this is not interest, this is just payment. So as you have a lower term, your monthly payment is going to be higher. Okay, lower term, higher monthly payment. Longer term, lower monthly payment. This is what loans and lenders are going to try and sell you on, all right? That you can actually get a lower monthly payment if you sign up for a longer term. But what this does is it accumulates higher interest. So you will pay more interest if you have a longer term. Okay, so what is the effective term length on monthly payments? The lower the term length, the higher the monthly payment. Now, this is really important. You want to be careful that you're able to afford your monthly payment, but when you do this, if you increase that term length, then you're going to be paying more interest. Okay, so if you have a low term length, you're going to be losing less money to interest. So be skeptical. Okay, if you're being offered a long or high term length, then you're paying more in interest. Okay, the typical rule of thumb is if you cannot afford to pay back a car in at least 4 or 5 years, you can't afford it. All right, if the monthly payments for a 4 to 5 year loan on a car are too high, you can't afford it. All right, if you have to stretch that loan out to 8 years, then you just can't afford that car. Okay? All right, we have to keep in mind here other costs associated with cars. So not only are you going to have to pay your car loan, you're also going to have to license that car, and you're going to have to pay car insurance. You're going to have to pay gas. You're going to have to pay maintenance and repairs. So it's very important to consider these in your budget if you are buying a car. Insurance fluctuates, but let's say on average it's going to be, in the medium range, perhaps $1,500 per year. Gas, depending on how much you drive, could be about $50 a month. Maintenance and repairs is obviously going to fluctuate, but you should probably at least save $50 a month for that. Okay, so all of these things need to be considered when you're considering purchasing a car. Now, for financial advice, when we're getting into kind of budgeting at some point, it is recommended that your car costs all in, that you don't spend more than 15% of your net income on anything associated with transportation vehicles. So all of those things should not add up to more than 15% of your net monthly income. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about car loans. Let's go through one example here. It says assume you're purchasing a car with a sticker price of $20,000, okay, the advertised price. Please know with cars, you're also always able to negotiate, so try and get that price down. Now, in Manitoba, you're going to pay sales tax on top of that price. Let's say you put in a $1,500 down payment and then finance the rest with a loan. The loan term was 48 months and the interest rate was 3%. Okay, let's look at what that looks like. So what is the total price of the car with tax? First, I would take my $20,000 and I would multiply that by 12%. Okay. Sorry, I would have to multiply that by 1.12 in order to consider the original price. This is going to total $22,400. Okay, that's step one of always considering the cost of an item, is to consider it with tax. Now, the down payment subtracts. We don't have to borrow that money. So $22,400 subtract my down payment of $1,500 means I'm actually borrowing $20,900. Okay, that's what I'm financing. Now I'm going to show you how do we look at what the monthly payment's going to be and how much interest that's going to cost. So let's look at a loan calculator again. Okay, I'm borrowing $20,900. My loan term is 4 years or 48 months, and my interest rate is 3%. Okay, when I see my monthly payments, and having tools like these bank rate calculators will be good in your future in case, companies don't always show this honestly. So your monthly payment is going to be $462. Then your interest paid is $1,305. Now let's say instead, okay, we'll go back, we'll write that down. So my monthly payment is $462.61, and my interest on my loan is $1,305.16. So that's in addition to all the money I have to pay back from the principal. Now let's see what it looks like if we increase my down payment to $5,000. So if I do that, that means I am actually only borrowing $17,400. So let's see what that looks like. So if I change my loan amount to $17,400 because I put more money down up front, okay, my loan term doesn't change. This means my monthly payment has decreased, and in addition, my interest that I've paid has decreased to $1,000. Okay, so let's write that in here. So how much interest am I paying now that I put more in my down payment? $1,086.59, which is less than the $1,305. So the lesson there is if you put more money down up front, you'll pay less in interest on your loan. All right, the goal here is to get as little interest as possible. Now, let's practice lowering the term. So let's go back to our loan. If I lower the term to 36 months, which is 3 years, so 1 year less, and I keep my loan rate the same, you'll see my monthly payment has gone up, but my interest has gone down. All right, so again, the lesson here is how much interest am I paying? $816.47. So you have to make sure you can afford that monthly payment, but again, you want to make sure that any money you're borrowing, you're not paying loads and loads of interest on it. So let's summarize a couple things. 2 ways to reduce the amount of interest you pay on the loan. Number 1 would be to increase the down payment. So this means you're ultimately borrowing less money, right? Which means you'll pay less in interest. So you want to make sure that when you're having a car or a house that you put as much money as you can reasonably afford into that down payment. The second thing is going to be to lower the loan term. So this means you should pay that loan back as fast as you can reasonably afford. Again, considering the downside of reducing the term means your monthly payments are going to be higher. So again, check that you can afford that monthly payment, but the more that you can pay, each month, you'll pay less interest. Okay, all right, hopefully you took away a couple lessons there. I'm not going to go over financing and leasing, but I'm going to post a couple articles that you might want to look into some of the differences there just for your future. Okay, thank you.